What's up? It's your boy Kevin to turn on this motherfucking YouTube shit. Wow, what the fuck?
What's up? It's your boy. Can't tell you two shit. Hey man, say man, we are lit, eh? Lit 13, man. Turn. Motherfucker, day. Your hood outside. Big grip in the gang. Your hood outside shit, man. Free Palestine, free Congo, Russia, do your thing, and Texas, stand the fuck up. Each day is a new day to be a better version of yourself. Never let somebody bring you down, always fight back. Never let somebody tell you you are, but also look at yourself in the position you belong. Let's stay humble. Let's get on the revolution, on the movement. Keep Yahweh first. Coming to the Black Hebrew Israelite as a real Jew. Let's get out here. Alright. Boom. Say, motherfucker, that straight hood outside. Big crip in it. Gang, straight hood outside shit, man. Alright, gang. So y'all know what's going on. Diddy versus Kendrick, man. That shit ain't done. Thought that shit was done. Nigga, that ain't done. That shit ain't done. Ain't gonna never be done. Nigga, till it's done. Crip. But, hey, man, say, man, this battle rap war has been crazy. You know what I'm saying? You know, it was a time during rap when it was like, it was kind of dry at that moment. They came in, started rapping, you know, thought J. Cole, and it was on some shit. Give me a second. They thought J. Cole was on some shit. That nigga slicked his way out of it. Ended up being Drake versus Kendrick, man. Now we'll end up all the way into a motherfucking lawsuit. And the way I'm hearing this from this shit, man, it might not be getting so good for Drake, him doing his lawsuit, because I don't think nobody believe it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of shit that he's trying to say, they've been doing it for the longest, so it's like, at the end of the day, this is Lucius Grain, the motherfuckers of UMG that, you know, they do, them white motherfuckers crackers, they do beat with the judges and shit, manipulating shit, you know what I'm saying? So it's just a lot of shit behind a lot of shit, you dig what I'm saying? So Crip, we just gotta see how it goes, man. Let's get into it. Hey, gang, let's see what's been going on with Drake, man. You know, a lot's been going on, you know, after that battle, bruh. He taking a lot of shit to court, and supposedly, I don't know if it's going good or not.
Lawbreeze and Gentlegrams, in today's episode of Lawbree in Gentleland, the puff pastry prom queen princess printing petitions over a reputation that's diminished was delivered a dismissal motion by UMG over the lawsuit the freaky OV Ho frontliner filed. The record label wants the judge to cancel this clown show of a case that the Canadian Katy Perry concocted, and they submitted a 25-page document to the judge to let the court know that Lawbriana is simply sad he lost a rap beef, and the PDF rumors were swirling around long before Kendrick crumbled the Canadian caucus into the concrete. Now, you guys don't want to miss this video. I promise you, the things that UMG put in this motion to dismiss this lawsuit could be material for a stand-up comedy special. So you know what to do. Drop a like, comment, subscribe, share your thoughts, share with your friends, and let's break down this entire document that UMG just submitted to the judge to absolutely cook the Canadian maple syrup mob boss. Now, Lawbreeze and Gentlegrams, let's get right into it, alright? Chapter 1, the commencement of the Canadian cookout. This brand new lawsuit starts off with a quote from Drake himself from one of his actual records, Successful. That record was released way back in 2009 when he was still the unconfrontational Canadian clown, and on that record he rapped, "I want it all, that's why I strive for it. Diss me, you'll never hear a reply for it." And that's the exact quote that UMG uses to start off this motion to dismiss Drake's lawsuit. A motion to dismiss, if you guys didn't know, is basically a request for the judge to throw out Drake's lawsuit. So they start off saying, Drake, one of the most successful recording artists of all time, lost a rap battle against fellow artist Kendrick Lamar that Drake himself provoked and which he willingly participated in. Instead of accepting the loss like the unbothered rap artist he often claims to be, he sued his own record label in a meritless attempt to salve his wounds. On March 17, 2025, UMG moved to dismiss Drake's complaint. Rather than attempt to defend his original complaint, Drake filed an amended complaint in which he removed obviously false factual allegations, but added multiple allegations about Kendrick's live performance of a version of the song Not Like Us at the Super Bowl halftime show on February 9, 2025. What they're referring to here is the fact that in Drake's first lawsuit, he basically accused UMG of using fake streams on the song Not Like Us. Drake's source for this was a whistleblower or an anonymous person who went on DJ Academic's stream back in June of 2024 to say that Kendrick's manager, Anthony Soleil, actually paid him to put 30 million fake streams onto Spotify for Not Like Us. This random guy ended up to be full of cap, and that's why Drake's team amended their lawsuit, aka filed a new version where they removed that claim from the lawsuit. But on top of removing the bot claims, they also added in some new claims about Kendrick actually performing Not Like Us on the Super Bowl stage. So let's continue here. Drake's new allegations are absolutely astonishing. As Drake concedes, Kendrick's Super Bowl performance did not include the lyric that Drake or his associates are quote-unquote certified PDFs, aka the alleged defamatory material that is at the heart of this case. Basically, because Kendrick didn't actually say the words certified PDFs on the Super Bowl stage, UMG is questioning why the hell Drake is now using the Super Bowl performance in his lawsuit. The focus of Drake's new claims that, quote-unquote, the largest audience for a Super Bowl halftime show ever did not hear Kendrick Lamar call Drake or his crew PDFs. And this betrays Drake's case for what it is. Drake's attack is on the commercial and creative success of the rap artists who defeated him instead of the actual content of Kendrick's lyrics. The amended complaint is without merit and should be dismissed with prejudice. In 2024, two of the most popular recording artists in the world, Kendrick and Drake, engaged in a high-profile rap battle. Over the course of approximately 2 months, they exchanged increasingly vitriolic and incendiary diss tracks, sometimes responding within hours of each other. Drake encouraged the feud. When he felt at one point Kendrick was taking too long to respond, Drake released a recording goading Kendrick to continue the rap battle. Kendrick did just that, and collectively Drake and Kendrick released a total of 9 tracks, taking aim at each other. On a side note, you could literally make an album with all the different diss tracks that came out around that time, right? The 9 tracks that Drake and Kendrick released, the 1 track J. Cole did, Rick Ross's diss track, Metro Boomin's BBL Drizzy beat, A$AP Rocky's diss track, The Weeknd's diss track. Who am I forgetting? Am I forgetting any? But yeah, this would be like the greatest album of the 2020s decade if you just included like all 12 of these songs that I just named on one project. Maybe I'll make that a playlist on Spotify or something where they all flow in like a sequential order. Anyways, let's continue. Not Like Us, the penultimate track in the feud, is the subject of Drake's complaint. The recording was released by Kendrick through defendant UMG on May 4th, 2024 and was a massive success. The record was the best-selling rap record of 2024 and has become a ubiquitous cultural phenomenon. Like all the recordings in the feud, and like many of the notorious diss tracks throughout rap's history, Not Like Us consists of a series of hyperbolic insults. Hyperbole, just like the Super Bowl, essentially means performative, right? For the love of the performance, for the spirit of imagination, of creativity. It's an exaggeration, and that's what UMG is essentially trying to say Not Like Us is. Not Like Us is not factually saying Drake's a PDF, but instead it's a performative diss track that echoes the sentiment or spirit of diss tracks in the past. Drake was pleased to use UMG's platform to promote tracks leveling similarly incendiary attacks at Kendrick, including that Kendrick engaged in domestic abuse and that one of Kendrick's managers is the true father of Kendrick's son. That he's talking about Family Matters here. But now, after losing the rap battle, Drake claims that Not Like Us is defamatory. It's not. While the complaint focuses mostly entirely on Not Like Us, it disregards the other diss tracks that surrounded Not Like Us, as well as the diss track genre, and thus critically ignores the context of the dispute. Assessed in context, as it must be, Not Like Us conveys non-actionable opinion and rhetoric hyperbole. Indeed, diss tracks are a popular and celebrated art form centered around outrageous insults, and they would be chilled if Drake's suit were permitted to proceed. Basically what they're saying here is Drake had no problem using UMG's resources to put out diss tracks of his own where he also spread horrible accusations against Kendrick. But what UMG is saying is that all of these insults were in the spirit of competition, in the essence of what a diss song is supposed to be, right? Hyperbolic insults, exaggerated performative insults for the sake of trying to tear down your opponent the hardest. And what they emphasize at the end here is that if Drake's lawsuit were to go through and he were to actually win, it would set a precedent in the world of diss tracks, and I believe just music in general, where creative freedom is now limited. People have to worry or walk on eggshells about what they say in a song because they'll have to worry that a record label will get sued over the bars that they rap. And what's even worse is that he's not actually suing Kendrick here, right? So it's not like new rappers of the future will look at this lawsuit and be like, oh crap, Drake sued Kendrick over a diss track, so I have to be careful what I say in my diss track. No, Drake is suing the record label. So if Drake wins against the record label, think about how corporate and strict and tight a record label is, right? If UMG loses this legal battle, think about how careful all record companies will be in the future to avoid ever having the chance of getting into a lawsuit like this where one of their artists is suing over another. You're talking about the puppet masters here, right? The record labels are the puppet masters. So if they see that their artists could get them roped into a lawsuit, they're going to be a lot more careful about the type of tracks that they allow out or the type of lyrics they allow out. And UMG is basically warning the world here. Like, if Drake's lawsuit were permitted to proceed, the celebrated art form of diss tracks would be chilled, aka the lyrics will now be washed down, censored, limited. They won't be the same. Drake also alleges that Not Like Us constitutes second-degree harassment, but sues under a criminal statute that has no private right of action and does not prescribe speech. Basically, he's saying that Not Like Us is second-degree harassment, but he's suing under a statute that does not necessarily focus on speech, and that's obviously what this is, right? If Drake feels harassed because of Not Like Us, it's due to the speech within the song, the lyrics, right? Finally, Drake claims that UMG's promotion of Not Like Us violates New York General Business Law 349, but fails to allege any of the elements for that claim. Less than 3 years ago, Drake himself signed a public petition criticizing the quote-unquote trend of prosecutors using artists' creative expression against them by treating rap lyrics as literal fact. As Drake recognized, when it comes to rap, the final work is a product of the artist's vision and imagination. Drake was right then, and he is wrong now. The complaints claims against UMG are no more than Drake's attempt to save face for his unsuccessful rap battle with Kendrick. The court should dismiss the amended complaint with prejudice. So basically, less than 3 years ago, Drake himself signed a petition to protest rap lyrics being used in a court of law, and stating, again, that the final rap song that we get is a product of the artist's vision and imagination. So why is that different here? 3 years later, Drake is now suing over Kendrick Lamar's vision. Very hypocritical. So now they get into, obviously, the parties involved. They describe themselves. UMG is a global music company. Drake is an internationally known rap artist, and he signed with UMG through their Republic division, which is a record label under UMG, Republic Records, in 2009, and extended his contract in 2022. Drake's partnership with UMG has been hugely successful. He is one of the best-selling music artists of all time, with over 170 million albums sold. Damn, that's a lot. UMG also represents Kendrick through UMG's Interscope division. Kendrick's also a highly successful rap artist. So that's what's so crazy about this whole thing, right? Is that they're both signed to UMG. They were both releasing diss tracks aimed at each other through UMG. If Drake won this thing, then it'd be UMG's fault, according to Drake's logic, that the world now perceives Kendrick to be an abuser, a cheater, raising Dave Free's kid, etc. Again, if Family Matters won and UMG was the one promoting and publishing that song, it'd be the same exact situation, but it would be Kendrick that looks bad. So then they go into what kicked off this whole battle, and not the rap battle, the legal battle. Not Like Us was released as part of the rap beef between Drake and Kendrick. The artist feud reportedly traces its origins back more than a decade, but broke into the public domain in early 2024 when Drake and Kendrick began trading diss tracks, sometimes within the same hour. But Drake and Kendrick's feud is not unique, and here it's hilarious. UMG goes on to give us a literal history of rap battles. Rap feuds have existed pretty much since the beginning of rap in the 1970s, and several storied feuds have occurred throughout rap history. Drake is a prolific rap feud combatant, having traded diss tracks with artists including Meek Mill and Pusha T. The public feud between Drake and Kendrick traces back to the October 2023 track First Person Shooter by Drake and J. Cole, in which J. Cole rapped the line that he, Drake, and Kendrick were the big three. Again, this is all J. Cole's fault, man. Like, as much as J. Cole wanted no smoke and probably had good intentions by saying we're the big three like we started a league, he was really the one who kicked off this entire battle, which is hilarious. In response, Kendrick appeared on the March 2024 track Like That with artists Future and Metro, in which he rejected the notion that Drake and J. Cole were his equals, rapping, F the big three, it's just big me. Drake responded with push-ups distributed by UMG. The track takes aim at Kendrick, insulting his height, how the F you big steppin' with a size 7 men's on, and pip squeak, pipe down. These are quotes in UMG's lawsuit. Sometimes I feel like they're literally making this lawsuit more entertaining for the media that's actually reacting to it, rather than, the judge who's reading it. And through this push-ups diss track that we, UMG, had released for Drake, Drake also insults Kendrick's career. Your last one bricked, you're really not on nothing. He also stoked the feud, stating, and that effing song y'all got did not start the beef with us. This stuff been brewing in the pot, now I'm heating up. Then, seemingly impatient with the time it was taking Kendrick to respond, Drake released Tailor-Made Freestyle on Instagram. The track uses AI to make it sound as if the voice of deceased rap icon Tupac is rapping Drake's lyrics. In Tupac's voice, Drake taunts Kendrick and notably urges Kendrick to, quote-unquote, talk about Drake liking young girls on Kendrick's next diss track. And they literally quote tailor-made lyrics in this lawsuit. Kendrick, we need you. The West Coast savior. Engraving your name in some hip-hop history. If you deal with this viciously, you seem a little nervous about all the publicity. F this Canadian light-skinned dot. We need a no-debated West Coast victory, man. Call him a B for me. Talk about him liking young girls. It's a gift for me. Heard it on the Button podcast. It's gotta be true. And in his own voice, Drake goads Kendrick to release a new diss track, rapping, since like that your tone changed a little, you're not as enthused. How the F are you not in the booth? It feels like you're kind of removed. You're trying to let this stuff die down? Nah, not this time, my guy. You're following through. I guess you need another week to figure out how to improve. What the F's taking so long? We're waiting on you. I love how terribly Drake foreshadowed this entire battle. But anyways, let's continue. Kendrick responded with two tracks, Euphoria and 616. Kendrick raps to Drake in Euphoria, saying, a pathetic master manipulator, I can smell the tails on you now. You're not a rap artist, you're a scam artist with the hopes of being accepted. He criticizes Drake's music. I make music that electrify him, you make music that pacify him, which is obviously also a subliminal to the fact that he could double down on Drake being a PDF, but again, as he says, he'll spare him this time. And Kendrick attacks his use of Tupac's voice. A Canadian guy making Pac turn in his grave. Kendrick critiques Drake's parenting. I got a son to raise, but I could see you don't know nothing about that. And he critiques Drake's character and identity. I hate the way you walk, talk. I hate the way that you dress. I hate the way that you sneak diss. We know the lyrics of Euphoria. Kendrick insults continue in 616, where he raps that members of Drake's team are disloyal. Have you ever thought OV-Ho is working for me? Fake bully, I hate bullies, you must be a terrible person. Everyone inside your team is whispering you deserve it. Drake responded on the evening of May the 3rd with the track Family Matters, distributed by UMG. The track is a scathing attack on Kendrick, laden with hyperbolic slurs. Drake attacks Kendrick's authenticity. You're just acting like an activist, it's make-believe. Mocks his height. He always said I overlooked him, I was staring straight. These bars go over Kenny head no matter what I say. He states that Kendrick cheats on his fiancée. Why did you move to New York? Is it because you're living that bachelor life, proposed in 2015, but don't want to make her your actual wife? I'm guessing this wedding ain't happening, right? Because we know the girls that you actually like. Your darkest secrets are coming to light. And asserts that Kendrick's child was fathered by one of his managers, Dave Free. Your baby mama captions always screaming, save me. You did her dirty all your life, you're trying to make peace. I heard that one of the little kids might be Dave Free. Don't make it Dave Freeze, because if your GM is your BM secret BD, then this is all making plenty effing sense to me. Drake also raps about Kendrick abusing his fiancée, stating, when you put your hands on your girl, is it self-defense because she's bigger than you? And they hired a crisis management team to clean up the fact that you hit your queen. The track makes other allusions to violence. Drake opens up that he has emptied the clip over friendlier jabs, asks, which one of my so-called brothers need a shell from the clips? And raps, come get this butt whipping, I'm handing them out. The track closes with Drake stating, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, there's nowhere to hide, there's nowhere to hide. Firearm shots sound at various points. Kendrick responded with two back-to-back tracks, Meet the Grams followed by Not Like Us. In Meet the Grams, Kendrick directs his insults to Drake and members of his family. Not Like Us was released May 4th. Like the diss track before it, Not Like Us consists of hyperbolic insults. Kendrick calls Drake names, why you trolling like a bee, ain't you tired? It was God's plan to show you the liar. Mocks Drake's brand, what the OVO for, the other V option. What is the owl, bird guys and bird girls? I think they got this lyric wrong, isn't it? burnt guys and bird girls, something like that. Makes hyperbolic threats of violence. You think the Bay gonna let you disrespect Pac? I think that Oakland show gonna be your last stop. He attacks Drake's relationships, including alleging that Drake had relations with rapper Lil Wayne's girlfriend. Effed on Wayne's girl while he was in jail, that's conniving, and calls him an effing colonizer, inferring Drake exploits other artists for financial benefit. Taking up Drake's invitation in Tailor Made to quote-unquote talk about Drake liking young girls, Kendrick also makes various statements referred to in Drake's complaint, including, "Say Drake, I hear you like him young. You better not ever go to Cell Block 1. To any girl that talked to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him. And why you trolling like a bitch? You tired trying to strike a chord? It's probably A minor." He also raps, "Baka got a weird case, why is he around? Certified lover boy, certified PDFs." And states that your homeboy needs subpoena, that predator moving flocks, that name gotta be registered and placed on neighborhood watch. Drake responded the following day with the Hard Part 6. There, Drake doubles down on his statement that one of Kendrick's children was fathered by Mr. Free. And why isn't Whitney denying all the allegations? Why is she following Dave Free? And like, if Dave really effed your girl and got her pregnant, talk about breed and resentment. And reiterates his claim of domestic abuse. "I don't want to fight with a beater, it feeds your nature." Drake states that he expected the alleged defamatory statements in Not Like Us. This Epstein angle was the stuff I expected. TikTok videos you collected and dissected. And he denies those allegations. "Only effing with Whitney's, not Millie Bobby Brown's. I never looked twice at no teenager." The track also contains further references to violence, including "I'll hit your throat with the razor," and "yeah, bullets that I'm stuffing in each chamber, your butt is in extreme danger." Now we get into chapter 2. The real reason why UMG thinks Drake has planned to sue.
Crazy.
UMG continues their ether against Drake, stating,
I mean, I knew
"Kendrick
it was
is
gonna
widely
happen
perceived to
sooner or
have
later,
won the
man.
rap feud." And they provide some quotes of, I believe, fans who had some thoughts on the beef, stating, "Ultimately, I do think Kendrick did come out on the superior end of that quarrel. We can say that Kendrick has won. Not Like Us has been a massive commercial and artistic success. It was the best-selling rap song of 2024, and Rolling Stone deemed it the biggest moment of music this year. I would argue in the last 10 years. The song, recording, and video of Not Like Us were collectively nominated for 5 Grammy Awards, as voted on by over 13,000 music industry peers, including Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Best Rap Performance, Best Rap Song, and Best Music Video, and won in all 5 categories."
Yeah,
Now, keep it in mind, just to show you guys how substantial the success of this song has been and the impact, I don't believe there's ever even been a hip-hop song that has even been nominated in the main categories, both main categories, like Record of the Year and Song of the Year.
This song was
And
crazy
I'm pretty
good.
sure, like 99%, that no rap song has ever won Song of the Year. I believe This Is America by Childish Gambino had once won Record of the Year, but Kendrick was the first one to win in both those main categories, and the first one to ever win Song of the Year for a hip-hop song. Insane. Kendrick performed a live version of Not Like Us at the Super Bowl as well on February 9th to a record audience. They continue, "There is particular value in resolving defamation claims at the pleading stage so as to not protract litigation through discovery and trial and thereby chill the exercise of constitutionally protected freedoms. In defamation cases, Rule 12b-6 not only protects against the cost of meritless litigation, but also provides assurance to those exercising their First Amendment rights that doing so will not needlessly become prohibitively expensive." Basically, because defamation cases usually center around speech is protected by the First Amendment, UMG here is saying these cases are usually concluded pretty early on so they don't become very expensive in legal fees. Drake fails to state a claim for defamation, is what UMG claims. Drake, who had no concerns using UMG's platform to publish slurs against Kendrick during their rap feud, now claims Not Like Us is defamatory. These allegations, directly aimed at chilling legitimate artistic expression safeguarded by the First Amendment and New York law, are meritless. Drake fails to state a claim for defamation because Not Like Us conveys non-actionable opinion and rhetorical hyperbole, not fact. And
Not
because
Like
he does
Us
not
just hit a
adequately
chord, nigga.
plead that UMG
Once
acted
everybody
with
started
actual
talking
malice.
about it,
So basically UMG is
his
stating
mom
here
probably
that
heard it, his dad
it's not a
probably
cause
heard
for
it.
defamation, and Drake can't actually claim
All this shit that
specifically
won't
what is
happen.
defamation because Not Like Us conveys non-actionable opinion and rhetorical hyperbole, basically exaggerations, and the lyrics are all Kendrick's opinion.
Yeah, white people laughing
And
at
he
his
can't
goofy
prove
ass.
that
He's like,
UMG,
man.
when they published and promoted the song, actually acted with malice, with bad intention against Drake. Now, what would this mean for the material, the lyrics in Not Like Us, to be non-actionable opinion and hyperbole? Well, UMG explains, to be defamatory, to be defamation, a publication must convey fact, not opinion or rhetorical hyperbole. Expressions of opinion as opposed to assertions of fact are deemed privileged and, no matter how offensive, can't be subject of an actual action for defamation. Whether a statement conveys fact or opinion is a quote-unquote question of law for the court. The burden rests with the plaintiff to establish that in the context of the entire communication, a disputed statement is not protected opinion. What this means is, if someone sues for defamation, like saying something is false and harmful, it's their job to prove that the statement was presented as a fact and not just an opinion. The court looks at the full context of what was said to decide this. Basically, it's Drake's responsibility to prove to the court that the lyrics in Not Like Us weren't Kendrick Lamar's opinion, but instead he was stating them as factual pieces of information, which I think is going to be hard to do when you have lines like, I hear you like I'm young, or trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor. These are assumptive words, right? These aren't declarative adjectives or whatever probably would be. I don't think it's an adjective. An adverb, that's what I was thinking. Probably is an assumptive adverb. But now, in legal cases, usually in order to better justify your case, you gotta come with some sort of precedent, right? Like a prior case that happened where the results leaned in the favor that you're looking for, and you say, look, like, this is what happened in this defamation case, so judge, this is what should happen in our defamation case against Drake. And in this case, UMG uses the case of Michael Rappaport versus Barstool Sports. Michael Rappaport, who is an actor and comedian, sued Barstool Sports for defamation in 2021 after they posted content calling him a racist and other harsh criticism. The court dismissed most of his claims, saying that the comments were clearly opinion or insults and not statements of fact. Because of that, they were protected under free speech laws. This case is often used to show that harsh or offensive language isn't necessarily illegal, especially if it's just someone's opinion or part of an online feud. And it's a very similar situation to the rap beef and, of course, Not Like Us. Now, UMG continues, the concept of opinion has come to mean more than it does outside the libel law context. To distinguish assertions of fact from non-actionable opinion, courts analyze 1, whether the specific language and issue has a precise meaning which is readily understood, 2, whether the statements are capable of being proven true or false, and 3, whether either the full context of the communication in which the statement appears or the broader social context and surrounding circumstances are such as to signal readers or listeners that what is being read or heard is likely to be opinion, not fact. At its crux, the question for the court to resolve as a matter of law is what an objective, reasonable person hearing that statement would take it to mean. Basically, in defamation law, the word opinion has a special meaning. It's not just someone's personal view, but instead it's something that can't be proven true or false and that a reasonable person would recognize as not a factual claim. Courts look at the wording, whether the statement can be verified, and the context to decide if it sounds like a fact or an opinion. And in this assessment, context is key. The Court of Appeals of New York has consistently focused its analysis on the overall context in which the complaint of assertions were made. This includes both the immediate context in which the disputed words appear, as well as the larger context in which the statements were published, including the nature of the particular forum. A statement's tone and apparent purpose may signal that it is not conveying an accurate factual assessment offered by a disinterested observer. For example, a statement may indicate non-actionable opinion where it reflects a degree of anger or resentment, where the tenor is rambling, heated, or speculative, or often escalates into the hyperbolic, or where it invokes parody, loose, or figurative language. Likewise, the broader context informs whether a statement is reasonably understood to convey factual assertions. Even apparent statements of fact may assume the character of statements of opinion when made in public debate, heated labor dispute, or circumstances in which an audience may anticipate the use of epithets, fiery rhetoric, or hyperbole. So basically, even if they are stated as facts, these statements, these defamatory statements are stated as fact, context matters, right? It matters that Kendrick and Drake were in a rap battle when these allegations were thrown out, because the audience can now decipher, okay, Kendrick was obviously mad at Drake. Kendrick's objective was obviously to make Drake look as bad as possible. So when we look at these lyrics a bit deeper and not just take them at face value, was Kendrick really trying to declare to the world that Drake is a massive PDF? Or was he trying to win a rap battle and make this as entertaining as possible and as controversial as possible for the sake of the art of diss tracks? So we get a lot of legal jargon here. I'm not going to read you guys word for word what is being said in this part of the document, but let me kind of paraphrase it. In New York, courts often decide that something isn't legally defamatory if it's said in a tone or a setting where people expect exaggeration, jokes, or personal opinions. For example, if a claim appears in an opinion article full of rumors and speculation, the court may rule that no reasonable person would take it as a serious fact. In the Rappaport versus Barstool Sports case, the defamation case that UMG cites in this document, a case that was about defamation that got dismissed, it shows how basically this worked, right? Because Michael Rappaport claimed he was defamed by outrageous insults and accusations in a diss track and in online posts. But the court ruled against him, saying that the statements were clearly part of a heated public feud that was filled with over-the-top blood got boring, so I switched to insults on platforms like social media where people expect strong opinions and trash talk, not objective facts. The appeals court agreed, emphasizing that the wild tone and setting made it clear that the statements weren't meant to be taken literally. And UMG says these conclusions equally apply here. Considered in context as is required, Not Like Us conveys hyperbole and opinion, not facts. Looking first to its tone, the 4.5-minute rap disc consists of epithets, fierity, rhetoric, and hyperbole. The track is rife with rumor and speculation and reflects a considerable degree of anger and resentment. The lyrics are loose and figurative, rambling and heated, and exaggerated vitriolic words pervade the recording to attack all aspects of Drake's life, including his career, brand, relationships, and character. Exaggerated imagery in the music video reinforces that Not Like Us is not intended to reflect factual analysis. The video opens with Kendrick whispering to a clown that he sees dead people, a nod to the film Sixth Sense, implying hyperbolically that Drake has been defeated in the rap battle. The video also shows Lamar beating an owl piñata with the disclaimer, no OV-hoes were harmed in the making of this video. It's crazy they have to include this in a lawsuit. This imagery reinforces the non-factual nature of Not Like Us. No reasonable listener would require a disclaimer that the piñata is not literally Drake and his crew. The imagery is satirical, figurative, and vitriolic, signaling to the audience that the video does not convey sober factual analysis. They're basically saying here that all the, over-the-top funny imagery like Kendrick jumping hopscotch or hitting a piñata while it says, disclaimer, no OV-hoes were harmed in the making. Or you got Tommy the Clown in the video. They're basically saying here, because of how over the top everything was, because of Kendrick's tone, you could literally hear him in the second verse rapping, all crazy, I lean on you guys like another line of walk. It's intense. It's a rap battle. It's the spirit of the creativity of a rap battle, right? And the audience can tell in Kendrick's tone and in the context of this thing that he is not actually seriously trying to harm Drake or beat him up like a piñata or call him a PDF, which I don't know. Was Kendrick really trying to tell the world that Drake is a PDF? Because if he was, then does Drake end up winning this lawsuit? Anyways, let's continue. Likewise, the cover image of Drake's Toronto house is obviously doctored, further underscoring the non-factual nature of Not Like Us. Again, no reasonable viewer would believe that the image of Drake's mansion with 13 S-offender markers is real. The image is hyperbolic and exaggerated, conveying opinion, not fact. They're talking about the cover art to Not Like Us, how it had all those S-offender pins on Drake's house. That was the picture of the cover art. The broader context reinforces that Not Like Us is non-actionable. The alleged defamatory content was published in connection with quote-unquote a rap diss tracks, hardly a forum that a reasonable person would expect to convey rigorous factual content. And Not Like Us was Kendrick's culminating track in one of the nastiest lyrical warfare rap feuds in recent history. It followed the release of 7 preceding tracks in which Drake and Kendrick hurled increasingly vitriolic allegations, including Drake's slurs that Kendrick's son was fathered by someone else and that Kendrick physically abuses his fiance. If ever there was circumstance for the audience to anticipate the use of epithets, fiery rhetoric, and hyperbole, this is it. If statements in a letter to the editor are non-actionable because the common expectation is such letters do not serve as a vehicle for the rigorous and comprehensive presentation of factual matter, essentially what they're trying to say here is that obviously in one of the most intensive rap beefs we've seen in recent memory, they exchanged bunch of different diss tracks, both of them releasing horrible allegations, and given how over the top and emotionally charged these songs were, courts would likely see them the same way they look at opinion piece articles or public debates. Places where people often expect exaggeration, strong language, and personal bias, and not objective facts. Just like people don't expect letters to the editor or op-eds to be fully factual or neutral, no one listening to diss tracks in a rap battle will assume the lyrics are meant to report the truth. The legal idea is that in settings where people expect wild opinions or entertainment, especially in music beefs, statements are usually seen as opinions and not defamatory facts, therefore can't be the basis for a defamation lawsuit. Again, this would be the first time in history that a diss track was used in a defamation lawsuit. In a strained attempt to justify his claim, Drake points to a selection of cherry-picked anonymous online comments, which he says evidence that the average listener or viewer has understood Not Like Us to reflect factual assertions about Drake rather than art or hyperbole. This argument is easily dismissed. As discussed, the assessment of whether an impunged statement is non-actionable opinion is a question of law for the court based on an objective, reasonable, or average person standard. The subjective opinions of a handful of people do not factor in, particularly where, as here, they are found in anonymous online comments, which are notoriously unreliable. Basically, UMG is stating that in Drake's lawsuit, in order to prove that the world, really believed Drake was a PDF because of the claims in Not Like Us that UMG obviously published and promoted, he was citing a bunch of online comments that he found, right? People online who would just say crazy things. And UMG said, the comments cited in Drake's complaint make this point. They are rife with grammatical errors, slang, and emojis, and authored by sources such as quote-unquote Wrestling Warrior 15 or Meow Meow 1234 Meow and I'm Chicken Little. These are real people who I guess Drake cited in his own lawsuit to prove that, people online think Drake is now a PDF, right? And anyone will comment anything on the internet to try to use that as a way to say the whole world now believes Drake is a PDF is fried, right? Like, Drake still has Nike shoes coming out. Drake is still courtside at basketball games, commenting with the announcers, all up on the big screen. I mean, the biggest point of all, UMG is still releasing Drake's music, right? Drake's brand has not suffered irreversible damages. I mean, yeah, it left a stain on his legacy within the culture, but did it stop brands from working with him? Did it make the entire world think that Drake is an actual predator on the level of an Epstein to the point where he can no longer have these sponsorships, have these massive looks, have this massive push from his label? Obviously not, right? The most you'll get is comments from users like I am Chicken Little or Meow Meow 1234 online who are stating that Drake is a PDF. And that's really what Drake is using in this lawsuit to say that his reputation is destroyed from this diss track. And they continue. Notably, Michael Rappaport unsuccessfully advanced the same argument as Drake in his own defamation lawsuit. On appeal, he argued that the district court incorrectly overlooked evidence that Barstool's audience interpreted the alleged defamatory statements as true on the basis that Rappaport's podcast received thousands of negative comments in the aftermath of Barstool's campaign, including comments repeating and expanding on the challenged statements. The Second Circuit denied the argument out of hand. After holding that the publications at issue constituted non-actionable opinion, the court concluded that it had considered Rappaport's remaining arguments and find them to be without merit. Basically, Rappaport was saying Barstool released a diss track against him, and people would then comment under his podcast a bunch of nasty things, and for that, he thought that Barstool defamed him. The court chucked it out as, not having enough merit for his claims of defamation. Drake also claims that the lyrics of Not Like Us imply that they are based on additional facts not disclosed to the listener, because, of course, Kendrick raps, rabbit hole is still deep, I can go further, I promise. This too fails as a matter of law. New York courts apply the objective, reasonable person standard to assess whether a statement implies undisclosed facts, making it a mixed opinion. Drake points to two lyrics to support his argument that Not Like Us leaves an unmistakable impression that it is based on undisclosed facts. Quote unquote, say Drake, I hear you like I'm young, and rabbit hole is still deep. Life is a workout. Still deep, I can go further, I promise. These statements cannot be reasonably understood as conveying undisclosed facts. Basically, Drake is trying to say that those two lyrics emphasize the unmistakable impression that Drake is a PDF. Drake's claim to the first lyric is particularly stunning. As noted above, Drake himself goaded Lamar to talk about Drake liking young girls. That Lamar then did so does not convey anything other than that Lamar accepted Drake's invitation. Basically, they're saying Drake literally told Kendrick to say that Drake likes him young in his next diss track. So the fact that Kendrick did it was only accepting Drake's invitation to say those bars, right? Because again, he requested that Kendrick did so on Tailor Made. In all events, the statements are too vague to support the weight that Drake gives them, as they have no precise meaning which is readily understood. More fundamentally, for the reasons of tone and context already discussed, these rhetorical statements fail to imply any factual basis for the lyrics in Not Like Us. Moreover, the broader context shows that both Kendrick and Drake traded these sorts of jabs. For example, Drake in Family Matters claimed with respect to his own unfounded allegations that, quote-unquote, your darkest secrets are coming to light. He makes similar assertions in the Hard Part 6 rapping, what about the bones we dug up in that excavation? For all these reasons, a reasonable person would not interpret these lyrics as conveying undisclosed facts, but would understand them for what they are, saber rattling in a rap battle. Drake's argument also fails because the statements in Not Like Us relate to controversies that are widely known, and that Drake himself acknowledged and perpetuated. And this is where we get into Chapter 3, Proof of FDP by UMG. I meant PDF, but let's continue. Facts and criticism concerning Drake's relationships with minors predate Not Like Us and have been wildly reported. Kendrick is indicting Drake for years of rumors and speculation around his misbehavior around minors, and that quote-unquote Millie Bobby Brown is one of the things that most people are aware of when it comes to Drake and the rumors around him. In the Hard Part 6, Drake also affirmed that he understood Lamar's statements in Not Like Us to refer to the Millie Bobby Brown controversy, stating, this Epstein angle was the stuff I expected, or only effing with Whitney's, not Millie Bobby Brown. I never looked twice at no teenager. UMG also includes a couple sources at the bottom of each page, with one of them stating a quote, we all know the stories of him going to girls' basketball games. There are some things that we've seen and heard over the years. It's kind of wild that this has been in the atmosphere for some time, but no one has previously called out Drake in this way. When Millie Bobby Brown was 13, she met Drake at a concert. He was 30 or 31 at the time. She said they would text a lot in interviews, and they maintained this friendship where he would give her advice about boys, stuff like that. This was spoken about in interviews. Allegations of Drake having quote-unquote inappropriate relationships with minors is a topic Drake has had to debunk in the past. Not Like Us reflects these rumors surrounding Drake's personal life. Yikes. And they continue. Clearly, Drake himself understands that Kendrick's lyrics refer to well-known issues that have been wildly reported. Drake's arguments concerning undisclosed facts carry no weight. And yeah, that's a great point, right? Because Kendrick didn't even have to mention Millie Bobby Brown for Drake to then rap on the Hard Part 6, only messing with Whitney's, not Millie Bobby Brown's, never looked twice, no teenager. He was very well aware that these rumors existed of him having weird interactions with the chords A minor long before Not Like Us ever came out, so much so to the point that when he was rebuttaling Not Like Us, he brought up things in the Hard Part 6 that Kendrick never even brought up in Not Like Us, like the Epstein angle and the Millie Bobby Brown stuff. Anyways, they continue. Drake cannot allege that UMG acted with actual malice. Drake's claim should also be dismissed for failure to plead actual malice. A public figure can prevail on a defamation claim only when there is clear and convincing evidence that proves that a defamatory statement was published with actual malice. That is, with deliberate or reckless falsification. The element of actual malice focuses primarily on what a defendant knew or believed at the time a purposely false statement was made. Basically, Drake has to prove what UMG actually knew before releasing Not Like Us. Because UMG is a corporation, Drake must also plead specific allegations that individuals at UMG acted with actual malice at the time that they participated in the publication of the statement in question. Drake does not and cannot plead that any significant person acted with actual malice. His defamation claim fails for this reason as well. Drake asserts a claim for harassment in the second degree under New York Penal Law 24026, claiming that Kendrick issued a call to target Drake, including through violence, and that Not Like Us amounts to incitement. This claim fails for multiple reasons. And I'll paraphrase here to save you guys the legal jargon. Essentially, again, Drake is claiming that Not Like Us is second-degree harassment, right? And UMG is saying that just because something is a crime, like harassment, doesn't mean that you can personally sue someone for it. Unless the law specifically says regular people can file a lawsuit, only the police or the government can take action. In this case, New York's harassment law is a criminal law, so it's meant to be used by law enforcement, not private citizens. Courts have made it clear that people can't use this law to start their own lawsuits. It's just not what the law was made for. Instead, Drake would have to, call the cops to be like, I'm being harassed because of this song. They continue, Drake's harassment claims fail for other reasons as well. The statute requires that UMG act with intent to harass, annoy, or alarm. But at most, Drake merely asserts an intent to devalue Drake's music and brand in order to gain leverage in negotiations. Basically, in Drake's own lawsuit, he was alleging that because he was about to have to renew his contract with UMG, go back into negotiations with them, paying for them, that's when they decided, okay, let's concoct this smear campaign when we promote the hell out of Not Like Us to devalue Drake's brand, so that way when he comes back to negotiate with us, we can offer him much less money. But this wouldn't make sense. The logic there is flawed, because if Drake has less value to give UMG, they make less money. So even if they're paying him less upfront, they also make less money because he's not getting as many record sales. It's a lose-lose for everybody. So they emphasize this. Even this allegation makes no sense. Drake does not explain how a contract with Drake would be more profitable for UMG if Drake was quote-unquote devalued. UMG's revenues would decrease. Indeed, Drake contradictorily alleges that UMG had the opposite incentive with respect to re-signing Kendrick. So basically, this is an interesting point, right? They re-signed Kendrick, but they propped the hell out of his song Not Like Us, according to Drake's lawsuit, right? All the fake streams, all the over-the-top promotion, they were really trying to make it seem like Kendrick is larger than life when they're in negotiations now with Kendrick to re-sign them. So Drake's logic is kind of hypocritical, because on the one end, Drake is saying, you guys tried to ruin my brand so that when I renegotiate my contract with you, you can offer me less money. But at the same time, he's saying that they propped up Kendrick's brand, built it up to be higher, and they're about to go into contract negotiations with Kendrick as well. So do you see the flaw in the logic here? On one end, Drake is saying, you guys are trying to destroy my reputation so that you could re-sign me to your label at a lower cost. But then at the same time, he's saying, you guys are trying to make Kendrick's reputation a lot better than it was, even though you're about to re-sign him to your record label. But then what about the fact that if they re-sign Kendrick, they're going to have to pay him more because his brand is now built higher, right? The same way that you're claiming UMG tried to destroy your brand in order to sign you for less, they would now have to pay Kendrick more to sign him because his brand is now worth more. That was a freaking mouthful. If that didn't make sense, drop a comment and I'll explain in the comments a little more clearly. Furthermore, prohibition on a harassing course of conduct does not prescribe pure speech, which is what is at issue here. Drake's claim also cannot meet the constitutional test for incitement, which requires that the speech at issue be both intended to produce and likely to produce imminent disorder. Drake nowhere alleges that UMG intended to cause violence against him, nor are the lyrics of Not Like Us likely to produce imminent lawless action. And while Drake attempts to contort violent metaphors in the lyrics into incitement, hyperbolic and metaphorical language is par for the course in diss tracks. Indeed, Drake's own diss tracks employed imagery far more violent, with such lyrics as, you're dead, there's nowhere to hide, and I'll hit your throat. Finally, Drake fails to allege that UMG acted with no legitimate purpose in publishing and promoting Not Like Us. The phrase no legitimate purpose means the absence of a reason or justification to engage someone other than to hound, frighten, intimidate, or threaten. Here, Drake expressly alleges that UMG's motives with respect to Not Like Us were financial. Immediately after the release of Not Like Us, Drake started making baseless accusations that Kendrick was using surreptitious, I don't know if that's how you pronounce that, surreptitious means, such as fake streams, to make the song appear more popular than it was. And now we get into Chapter 4, the fake stream and botting war. They continue. Now Drake has attempted to shoehorn his grievance into a NYGBL claim against UMG. Drake claims UMG made quote-unquote materially false and misleading representations about the recording's popularity to consumers. Basically, UMG tried to pretend to the audience on social media that the song was a lot more popular than it was. And they did not disclose that it was covertly financially incentivizing third parties to play, stream, and promote the recording, including paying others to use bots to stream the recording. Drake cannot satisfy the elements of a JBL 349 claim. Basically, Drake was trying to claim that UMG paid these social media influencers paid for fake streams, paid people to promote the song, reaction channels, etc., to make it seem more popular than it was, but he cannot actually prove any of these claims. First, Drake fails to plausibly allege a covert scheme. All of his allegations are on information and belief. But such allegations must be accompanied by a statement of the facts upon which the belief is founded and cannot rest on pure conjecture and speculation. This is true, especially with regard to consumer fraud claims such as those under JBL 349. Basically, all of Drake's claims in his own lawsuit are prefaced by the sentence on information and belief. Basically, he would say, on information and belief, Kendrick Lamar had fake streams on his song Not Like Us that were paid for by UMG. He's not actually saying, based off the sources X, Y, and Z, Kendrick paid for fake streams. No, he's saying, on the information and belief that our team has, basically off of things that we've already heard, rumors that we've heard, we believe this to be true, and this is what we're going to try to dig into when we actually do discovery, when we actually rip through all your contracts, rip through all your internal documents to build a case for ourselves. The one source that they did have, which was that whistleblower on that academics live stream, they removed that from their lawsuit because it ended up being BS. So now they're just going off of social media rumors, right? A bunch of Twitter links, a bunch of OVHO influencers concocting these false narratives. UMG is saying, you gotta come for proof if you're gonna accuse us of pay for play or of consumer fraud claims. After withdrawing his prior false allegations that UMG was accused on a podcast of paying to use bots to stream Not Like Us, Drake is now reduced to citing a different podcast host who claimed that Kendrick used bots so that a Drake record would have more dislikes than likes. He also relies on a now deleted anonymous Twitter comment accusing Kendrick of buying promo to clown Drake's lawsuit, not to promote Not Like Us, as well as another post claiming that UMG and Kendrick had used a bot streamer. Courts reject such online comment-based pleading because online comments, quote-unquote, utterly fail to make plausible the underlying factual claims. Basically, online comments are just a bunch of internet speculation. Thus, these comments cannot save Drake's information and belief allegations, because again, Drake is going off of information and belief in the lawsuit. The information and belief that he's going off of is people talking online, a bunch of internet rumors. Drake's remaining allegations are even more speculative, such as 2 Twitter posts from July 2024 showing Not Like Us being recommended to Spotify users who search for rap artists. Drake also fails to plausibly allege that UMG had actual knowledge of any conduct or accusations concerning Kendrick. On a side note, I've seen a lot of people say, like, Drake is going to very much regret if he digs into UMG's internal documents to see the type of games they were playing to promote Not Like Us, because Drake has had those same games with his own music, right? Bots on his own music. But the thing is, UMG does not want any of that to be exposed. It makes them look just as bad as Drake if it comes out that they were using bots to promote Drake's music as well. They're going to do everything they could in their power. If it is true that they are using bots, doesn't matter what side it is, they're going to try their best to hide that because it makes them look just as bad as it makes Drake look. Moreover, Drake cannot allege that any representations about the recording's popularity to consumers were actually deceptive or misleading in any material way. Basically, Drake was mad that UMG and Interscope posted all over their social media how popular Not Like Us was, how it won a bunch of Grammys, how it was performed on the Super Bowl, how it broke all these records on Billboard. Drake can't actually prove that anything they said about the song's popularity is actually deceptive or a lie, right? Everything they said was the truth. It was very popular. Drake does not and cannot allege that Not Like Us would not have been an immense success had it not been for the alleged financial incentives at issue. That is, there are no alleged false or deceptive statements, even assuming that these payments occurred. Nor does Drake allege that knowledge of these alleged covert payments would be material to consumers. After all, there is no obligation under JBL 349 to provide whatever information a consumer might like to know. Basically, what this section is saying is that Drake can't claim the public was tricked or misled about how popular Not Like Us was. Even if there were behind-the-scenes payment to boost the song, he hasn't shown that any false statements were made about the song's popularity or that people would have cared enough about those payments for it to change their opinion on the song or the success of the song. The law only steps in when a lie or trick actually matters to consumers, meaning it would affect their decision to stream or support the song. But there's no rule saying artists or companies have to tell the public everything that happens in the background, especially if that information wouldn't actually change anyone's behavior. Basically, even if there were behind-the-scenes payments for Not Like Us to get boosted in popularity, whether that means played more on radio, or more reactors reacting to it, or more social media pages sharing it, or even bots fake streaming the song, all of that would not change the listener's decision on whether or not they were going to listen to the song. That's what UMG is arguing, that nothing they said online about how popular the song is, nothing that was represented online about how popular the song was would make a consumer want to either listen to the song more or less. Second, Drake's injury theory is that, number one, each time the recording was artificially streamed, Drake's songs received a disproportionate share from the pool of royalties collected based on the streaming data. And two, every time the recording was played on the radio, Drake lost the opportunity for one of his songs to be played. But such far-fetched claims are not cognizable. The proposition that a Drake song would necessarily have been played instead of Not Like Us is pure speculation. Nor does Drake allege how either claimed injury was caused by a failure to disclose the alleged financial incentives. That is, how they were a result of deception. So let's explain this legal jargon here. When he says each time the recording was artificially streamed, Drake's songs received a disproportionate share from the pool of royalties collected based on the streaming data, what Drake is essentially accusing them of is that music streaming services collect money from all users and then divide it among artists based on how many streams their songs get. He claims that every time Kendrick's song, Not Like Us, got fake or artificially boosted streams, it unfairly took a bigger share of that money, meaning Drake got a smaller cut of all the money from all songs that were streamed on Spotify than he should have. In other words, Kendrick's inflated numbers may have taken earnings away from Drake, because if they put fake numbers on the song, that means UMG got paid more than they should have, because these streams were fake, right? They shouldn't have actually got paid for them. He's also arguing that he lost money and radio play because Kendrick's song got extra attention, possibly due to paid boosts. But the problem is, there's no way to prove that if Kendrick's song hadn't been played, one of Drake's songs definitely would have been played instead. That's just a guess, and the law doesn't accept claims based on guesses like that, because Drake is saying, for every time Not Like Us was played, it removes the possibility of a Drake song being able to be played. But again, that's just an assumption that a Drake song would have been played instead, right? And in any event, Drake's GBL349 claim fails because he only alleges injuries that are quote-unquote indirect. Example, injuries purely contingent on harm to third parties. Here, under Drake's own telling, the injuries he suffered are contingent on others, streaming platforms or consumers, being deceived, which means they are indirect and not compensable under Section 349. The amended complaint should be dismissed with prejudice. So that's the entire document, and a spokesperson for UMG also issued this statement. Nowhere in the 100-page legal blather written by Drake's lawyers do they bother to acknowledge that Drake himself has written and performed massively successful songs containing equally provocative taunts against other artists. Nor do they mention that it was also Drake who started this particular exchange. Apparently, Drake's lawyers believe that when Drake willingly participates in a performative rap battle of music and poetry, he can be defamed even though he engages in the exact same form of creative expression. Drake's lawyers can also keep seeking to uncover evidence of wild conspiracies as to why one song that upset Drake had massive global appeal, but there is nothing to uncover except for this. By working tirelessly in partnership with our artists, we achieve global success for them and their music. Basically, Drake's team can keep trying to dig for dirt about some grand conspiracy. The only thing they'll find is that UMG puts a lot of effort into making sure their artists perform well. Our continuing partnership with Drake and his enduring success is a shining example. Despite his lawyers' attempts to silence other artists and threaten the companies that work with them, we remain committed to propelling Drake's career while maintaining our unwavering support of all our other artists' creative expression, Drake included. They're saying they're going to continue promoting Drake the same way they would any of their other artists, right? And they also made a separate statement saying Drake's new allegations are astounding. As Drake concedes, Kendrick's Super Bowl performance did not include the lyric that Drake or his associates are quote-unquote certified PDFs, i.e. the alleged defamatory material that is at the heart of this case. The focus of Drake's new claims that the largest audience for a Super Bowl halftime show ever did not hear Kendrick call Drake or his crew PDFs portrays this case for what it is. Drake's attack on the commercial and creative success of the rap artist who defeated him, rather than the content of Kendrick's lyrics. Drake contends that the decision not to include the word PDFs could only reflect that the language is defamatory. But this ignores any number of other explanations for the decision, such as threats by Drake of additional meritless litigation. Basically, Drake's whole argument is that the fact that they removed the word PDFs from Kendrick's Super Bowl performance shows that they know that using that word in that song is defamatory. UMG is saying, no, you're removing the idea that we probably removed that word because we didn't want any more useless lawsuits from you and your team. And then, of course, like we just read before, they emphasize that Drake himself has performed harmful diss tracks or just songs where he sneak dissing other artists in front of large audiences, right? Think of songs like Sicko Mode. Obviously, we know Back to Back, Summer 16. I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch. I mean, Drake had a whole tour called the Revenge Tour, which was about his beef with Meek Mill, right? He took his victory lap when he won, and no doubt he would have used the exact same tactics, if not more, in this war with Kendrick if he was the one who won. He used the same resources UMG released and promoted Family Matters the same way they did with Not Like Us. He made allegations just like Kendrick did. The only difference is Drake lost, and we'll see if he ends up losing this lawsuit. Again, the document we just went over is UMG essentially requesting to the judge that they toss the whole case out. So we'll get an answer soon. Of course, I'll keep you guys updated. Let me know what you think, and I will catch you in the next one.
Alright, we back. So Drake fucked up. You know what I'm saying? It's like, damn, if you're gonna do the lawsuit, man, it's like, you gotta have cold hard evidence, which he did, but I don't think that it's gonna like really hold up in court, bruh. Because, you know, defamatory, when they talking about trashing his name, bruh, a lot of this shit has already been said. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, in the Super Bowl, he didn't even say the bars. You know, he switched the song up like 2-3 times. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the radio song, yeah, bop, wop, 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 go fuck it up. That shit was going crazy. That's all you heard was on the radio was Kendrick shit. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't miss a day without 30 seconds. But like I said, bro, you know, rap battles, man, you never know what the fuck can happen, man. You might win, you might lose. You know, it depends on how much research you're doing on somebody. You know, if you got all the research on somebody and then you kind of got a catchy shit and you just, yeah, it's gonna be hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like Kendrick winning, you know what I'm saying, did help out his side of the people, you know what I'm saying, and it did bring back a little bit of swagger for what they was doing. But at the end of the day, man, more rappers gonna get more shine and more publicity to rap, you know what I'm saying, and get they bars out and shit. So I guess it works all for best, you know what I'm saying, because Drake doing a lawsuit. I don't know if he's gonna be able to win this lawsuit, you know what I'm saying, still looking pretty kind of crazy, you dig what I'm saying, but I mean, who would have thought he would have took it 100% to trial for against his own record label, you know what I'm saying. Hope they don't do what they did to the other big artists, take them out, you never know, man. You gotta be careful with these motherfuckers. Hey, hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'll just be hood and outside P-Crip Gangs.
Hey, Dad, you know, dog, when we link up, dog, this shit be legendary. You know this instrumental, you the engineer on it, so Kodak everywhere.